Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
I am tired. I just got home.
I don't like you literally like just got home and they were like computer, laptop, open up, sass and science, gotta do this thing. You look, girl, listen, you're tired, but she got her vaccine today and she's doing good so far.
Oh,
She's
good
doing
for you.
we got our second shot today. And that was at 11 o'clock. So we're going on 8.5 hours. I've been cleaning. We went grocery shopping. Um, so far so good.
Ethan is saying, like, look at her all domestic.
I know. Me being domesticated, who would have ever thought, right? I mean, you gotta. It's kind of like, at night I put out like the mini skirt and please my man type of thing. So it's like, sometimes you gotta pull out the feather duster, pull together a fresh made fantasy.
There you go.
So who we have in here today? Hello, Michelle Bone Woods. Hello, how are you? Hello, Christy Holloway. Ooh, Christy Holloway was just on our Bubbles, Beards, and Babes brunch this past Saturday. Her and her husband were with Tiffany Blue and Scarlet Diamond. This past brunch was amazing, Eric. Like, y'all need to come back. Y'all need to get your tickets for June. Just saying.
Yeah, actually, where? Oh, we're out of town during that. Ethan already looked to book them.
What date are you out of town? Come on, give me dates. Don't look it up.
I don't know. He's the one has already looked it up.
Lies, and deception. That's what I call. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you? Or Jeff, that's Dan's brother.
Hi, Mama Dan.
Yeah, that's Susan. Hello, Miss Susan. She was on the brunch too. Kathleen. Hello, Kathleen. How are you today? So today we are talking about drugs and drugs. Exactly, all types of drugs. We are going to be going through a bunch of different subjects. I mean, food could be a drug, hot sauce could be a drug, but we also have an amazing guest with us. Her name is Dr. Emily. She is going to be going over some statistics and just some information with us that's like maybe miscommunication of people out there with some subjects. Let's see, Matthew June says law, trouble and trouble. That is 100% trouble and trouble. But yeah, so like, let's just talk about drugs just really quick. This isn't, just going to be all about like, damn you drug people and damn you all this. Like, I take drugs on the day. I take meth, essentially legalized meth. Amphetamines for my Adderall for my ADHD. That is a legalized form of meth. So yes, I do take a drug. But then, I'm not sitting there cracking it up and snorting a line of it either. So, there's a whole thing. And I feel like for me...
You know what I do? I do snort lines of this hot sauce.
Well, that's because you're Latino, honey. And that's just nasal wash. That's nasal wash for you.
Oh, Lord. That would burn so bad.
It takes all the infections that you smell all day long.
I'm sure, with everything else.
Exactly. But you as an APRN, I mean, coming from the medical side, how is it when you have a patient and they're just like, they come in and they directly are saying, I need this. Does like that raise a flag for you? Or is it like one of those things like, okay, well, have they self-diagnosed? You know what I mean?
So yeah, a lot of times, I mean, luckily we live in an information age where everything's at our fingertips, right? So it's very easy to have an idea of what do you call this, on what's wrong with you and why, and maybe come to a conclusion before you even walk into the clinic to speak to a healthcare provider. So yeah, it's not unheard of to see that, but you kind of have to walk it back a few steps and find out, okay, well, why do you believe you have these things? what is it that's going on? And then is there any clinical reason, or is that I feel things versus what is things? And then suss it down from there.
Right.
Problem
Now,
solving.
do you feel like, I don't know, I guess it's just because, like, you know, pre-COVID days, like when I was out at the club, you know, hear people being like, oh, let's go pop some Molly, let's go drop some E, let's go snort some Coke, let's go do this, let's go do that. Do you feel that street drugs are on the same addiction level as prescription drugs? Or
no. I think street drugs. First, here's the thing, and this is the one thing, because when marijuana became legalized in Florida for medicinal purposes, there was a big issue, and the big issue is that people are like, oh, it's legalized now, so I can. It almost gave them permission to utilize the street stuff that they had been using all along. But in all reality, look, I worked at a psychiatric hospital once upon a time. And I will tell you, I know anyone who's ever honestly confessed to me that they used marijuana, it was never marijuana that we found in their system. It was marijuana and fentanyl, marijuana and some other chemical, right? Like some
all that stuff killed Michael Jackson.
No, fentanyl's not. I think propofol is what he abused.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's something else. Yeah. But yeah, and that's the problem, is that street drugs, the purpose is for a business exchange. They're trying to move product, right? But there's no care or concern for quality control. There's nothing to evaluate quality in any way. So that's why if we're going to get marijuana today in Florida, I would recommend getting it from a dispensary. Each tree is tagged and registered by the state of Florida. It's monitored throughout growth span and cycle. You're only allowed to have so many trees, but you want to make sure that you're updating the state with trees, like what's going on. It's regulated, it's controlled, whereas whatever you get on the streets is definitely not.
Right. Well, you know, and like I know when Jan and I were out in Colorado in 2019, we went to a grow house, like it was a grow house tour, and they were telling us that like they literally have to have the marijuana plant buckets. They have to have them in order. Like, let's just say 1A, 2B, 3C, right? And if the FDA comes in there and they pull their log and they find that 3C is actually in 1A, that they get fined like this ridiculous amount of money. Like they even asked us if we had vapes, like nicotine vapes, that we leave them on the tour bus, because if it dropped out of our pockets and we picked it up and put it in our pocket, they couldn't verify that that wasn't marijuana leaf that we were picking up off the plant and putting it in our pocket. Like it's so jurisdicted, or I think I used that word correctly. You know, she's pretty, she's not smart though. But you know, it's so regulated. That's the word I'm looking for, regulated. That, you know, I think it comes down to one of those things that when you're dealing with a natural substance, which I think natural is much better than, I know this goes against you and probably Emily that we're bringing on. I feel natural is much better than medicinal. Like in aspects of different things. Like I would rather go outside, like from our last thing of talking about revisiting the vitamin D. I would rather be outside getting vitamin D than have to pop a pill. You know what I mean? But I don't have the ability because I work indoors. You know, so like I just feel like there's natural ways that are better, and I think that medical marijuana being legalized nationwide, is going to take, especially post-COVID, is going to take all the states up into a plus, because everybody's going to be out. Everybody needs a little bit of a fixer up or a little pop up, you know. But it also you're regulated of what strand you're getting. You know, you're not getting a sativa mixed with a little bit of indica mixed with a whatever the hell else is in there. You're getting, you know, sativa or indica. You know what you're getting how you're getting it. So you know.
But there's a flip side to that coin. And you said it perfectly with vitamin D, right? Whereas you know that there's no way that you can get out and actually into the sun and get that vitamin D the natural way. So you have to get it in a capsule form. Well, the same thing is true for like let's say we were using marijuana for anxiety control, right? Well, marijuana's half-life at best is probably 4 hours, right? That's not going to last you a workday. So
Right.
you may need a tablet in place of, actual natural marijuana to actually last you a whole day, or maybe to give you around-the-clock coverage of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So, but that's just an example of just like one thing. Like, I mean, there's so many things out there. There's uppers, downers, and all that. And speaking of that, before we bring on our guest, I want everybody to go down here, do a bunch of red hearts, because more hearts means more algorithm, which means more that this is seen. And then hop over to the share button and share it to your groups, your page, your friends. Invite people to watch Sass and Science on the weekly, or actually on a bi-weekly, because we do go over some pretty decent, interesting subjects.
You heard it here first. Sass and Science is bi.
We service everybody. But let's go over just a couple quick little comments really here before we bring her on. Love you all. Keep up the awesome work is what Matthew James said. Thank you so much. Hello, Danielle of Lake County Pride. Thank you so much for joining in and watching. Bree, honey, listen, you've seen my nails, Eric. You've seen my long nails and my nail gloves. Miss Bree here of Unique Nails by Bree. She's the one that makes all of them. Stunning, gorgeous. Microdose, exactly. Take it when you need it, how you need it. So let's bring on our guest. Everybody, if you could, like I said, I can see who's doing it. So I need you to go down here and press this red heart like this, like that. Boom, 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 boom. Because I'm about to watch to see who does it and who doesn't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're on a 30-second delay, so we'll sit here and I'm going to wait. I'm going to watch. I'm going to see. Okay, we got Matthew. Okay. Please welcome to the stage of Sass and Science, Dr. Emily. Hello.
Hey. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I am awesome. Excited to be here, talking about my favorite things.
Exactly. Drugs.
Yeah.
So a little bit about you. So you're a doctor, obviously, but a doctor of?
Pharmacy. Yeah. Pharmacy. So I got my doctorate in pharmacy in 2012 from Campbell University in North Carolina. And I have, right now I'm working in a retail setting. So I do just community pharmacy work. I've also worked in hospital. I work in compounding, doing bioidentical hormone replacement therapies. I currently am volunteering with our Medical Reserve Corps, doing vaccinations and mass vax clinics. So just kind of a little bit of everything. I've done hospital pharmacy, retail pharmacy, just kind of mixing it up.
Yeah. And she's also my boyfriend's sister-in-law.
I have known your boyfriend since he was young. Long time. We go way back.
Bree says, badass. Yes, honey. Yes. So you heard what Eric and I were just talking about just talking about, like, and it wasn't just the focus of medical marijuana, but just drugs in general. Like, you as a pharmacist, so Eric being doctor, prescribing side, you being, APRN, he's on the APRN doctor side. Not saying you're a doctor, I'm saying you're an APRN doctor side. Like, you're
on the prescriber side.
Prescriber side, sure, got it.
Yeah, you're in the doctor's office. Let me make sure I say that correctly so that nobody says anything wrong. But let's just say you're on the prescribing side and you're on the filling side. Like, if you see, like, myself and then Dan and then somebody else all coming in with Eric's name on there, all for, whatever, some off-the-wall narcotic. Like, does that set a red flag? Like,
yeah, so I have a checklist that I personally go through when I am filling controlled substances, especially C2 medications, some of our like Adderall, Percocets, Oxycontins, those type of medications. I have a checklist in my mind that I go through. And I tell this to my patients. I have patients come up and try to fill these medications. And if I have any red flags, I am the type of pharmacist, and not all pharmacists will do this, but I like to have a conversation with the patient and see what's going on and discuss the red flags to get the whole story, because I can't get the whole story from a piece of paper. So the things that I look for is the patient in close proximity to the doctor, or are they traveling out of state or traveling to a different town, or what? So that's
proximity. What does that mean?
To me, it's within about 60 miles. Like if you're traveling more than an hour
Oh,
to see a doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about an hour radius for myself. And then is the doctor in close proximity to the pharmacy? And once again, about an hour. If you're traveling more than an hour to go get your prescription, now, as you probably know, pharmacists can pull up patient profiles and see. I'm in the state of Virginia, so I'm speaking from Virginia. We have
in the state of Florida, we have the PMP, so we can actually pull up. Here we call it eForce, and there's an actual score to each patient, right? So every time I prescribe something, I actually have to check: does Daniel or Anthony, how much have they used? When have they used it? It measures your controlled substances rate versus your sedatives rate. Yeah.
Yeah, so we see that. I can also see where you have filled your prescriptions. Did you fill it last month at CVS, now Walgreens, now, like, are you pharmacy shopping? I can see which doctors prescribed it. Are you doctor shopping? I can see if you've paid cash for it or if you used your insurance. So there's just a whole list of red flags that I look for when I'm about to fill a narcotic or a controlled substance medication. And I'm one of the more liberal pharmacists that I know in filling these prescriptions, because I do like to talk to the patient and get the whole story and see what's going on. And, you filled it at Walgreens last month. Now you're trying to fill it at CVS. What's going on? Tell me, oh, well, they were out of stock. Okay, well, that makes sense. They might have been out of stock. So I try to get that whole picture, but that is something that I can see on my end. And some of the concerns that I have when I'm filling prescriptions. And, it's all about patient safety and about keeping people safe. And I also realize that some people that are chronically addicted to the opioids and are using the opioids, it may be worse to suddenly not fill them than it is to keep filling them and help them come up with a plan to come off. So for us, and for me personally, it's all about this concept of harm reduction. Like, how can I help my patients and my people use drugs safely until they don't want to use drugs anymore?
I love that. I love what you just said. How can I get them to use them safely till they cannot? How can I get my patients to use them safely till they don't want to use them anymore? I think that's a really good thing. I think we condone so many people that are addicted to any drug. I mean, I smoke cigarettes. Like that is a drug. That is nicotine. That is a drug. I take Adderall for my ADHD. And that was one of my biggest things when I first started it. I was just like, I don't want to become addicted. I don't want to be like sitting there, hoeing myself out for a friggin' 15 milligram pill. But I can tell, like, when I'm not on my Adderall, like today, I didn't take it because I didn't know if it would have a interaction with my second vaccine. So I didn't take it. Yes, I know, Eric, you shake your head because you're good at it. But me, I'm like paranoid Polly over here. But I can tell, like, I'm tired because I didn't take it, because all day my brain has been like, choo, 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 So, like.
So on that flip side, though, like, I think that medications are needed, especially these controlled medications. People have uncontrolled pain, and people with ADHD or like whatever that patients are struggling with. Medication, there's no, there shouldn't be a stigma with taking it, or, like, as a pharmacist, I'm happy to help you get that treatment that you need. I don't want you to go without it. I want you to have your pain controlled and your mind where you want it to be.
So can I flip the tables on this conversation for a moment?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I used to prescribe quite a bit of psychotropics because I worked in a psychiatric hospital. One of the things that would drive me insane, and I just could not figure out for the life of me, is that sometimes some people would be prescribed, like, since we're on the topic of Adderall, some are prescribed 40 milligrams, sometimes twice a day, and something I've seen. Obviously, that falls on the side of the provider to make sure that the patient, you know who I'm talking about. But obviously, it falls on the side of the provider to make sure that the patient is able to tolerate that and that is appropriate. But there's also a degree of inappropriateness of that dosage. And I don't know how that falls on the pharmacy side.
Yeah, so we are actually liable as well if we fill a prescription that's inappropriate. Like, it is our due diligence to contact the prescriber, and especially if it's something high like that. We're doing a lot of work on OxyContin right now, trying to back people down. Like, we're trying not to do over 30 milligrams at a time. So there's a lot of we take it upon ourselves, or we actually have legal liability if we're going to be filling these controlled substances, to make sure that they're in the proper dosing range. And we can refuse to fill if it's too high or we feel like it's dangerous. But once again, you have to look at the history of the patient. Have they been taking it long term? I always talk to a provider and like, hey, what's going on? Do they need this? Like, what's happening here? You know, so it's all about the story behind the patient.
So we actually have Bree is actually giving us a little bit of her private information, which I appreciate because I think that this is going to be really good to kind of go over what we're talking about. So Bree is a full-time RVer. Her and her husband travel all over the country in their RV because they both can work from their homes. She
That's so
makes custom nails, like any length, any design. You know, she could make nail gloves, so you just put them on and they become a glove with like full nails.
Hey, lady, focus. The question is about the med.
Told you Adderall's not here today. But so she said, you know, she's a full-time and getting her meds filled because she travels so much can be tricky with C medication. And then she also says, New Hampshire, my mom had her knees replaced and has signed an opioid contract where she could only get her pain medication via her PCP. And then she also said, Provigil for narcolepsy over here.
Yeah. So that's a challenge. You know, that's one of the things that I would ask when she would come to my pharmacy. I'd get her prescription. I would see the address was out of state or whatever, you know, and I would ask her that backstory. I feel like as a good pharmacist, it's important to get that backstory and say, okay, well, this person is RVing. They're not doctor shopping. Like, I can get enough of the story to determine that and make a professional judgment call and say, I am going to fill this control. Now, let me tell you that not all pharmacists do that because we're super busy, we're overworked, we're understaffed, and it's much, much easier and quicker to say, we don't have that in stock than it is for me to take the time.
Say that.
Yeah. So it's much easier and quicker for me to say I don't have that in stock than it is for me to talk to Bree and get her story about her living in an RV full time and traveling. And so you won't find pharmacists everywhere that do that. I don't. On behalf of pharmacists, I apologize for that. I don't even know what to say about that. But
no, but on the other side, I will say that I have had patients sign all sorts of contracts, right? Yeah. Wait, BEARONCE. What are we trying to say, BEARONCE?
Red hearts.
Oh, red hearts. We're doing the red heart. We have to play the Facebook algorithm game.
Exactly. Listen, the algorithm of social media is exhausting.
Absolutely.
So Michelle Bowood says, Adderall for those of us with ADHD is a godsend. It really
Absolutely.
is. Like, I can even tell, just coming from personal experience today with me not taking it, like, I asked Dan one simple little question in the car about just something that the future with him moving in, like how many days is he going to be driving back and forth to Tampa for work and stuff like that. And he couldn't give me a definite answer. Like, he was just like, well, this day and that day, and it changes. And like, literally, like, my brain was like, no, he just said, he's like, you got an attitude. And I did, because my brain couldn't compute, like, what do you mean you're giving me too many answers right now? Like, there's too many factors. Like, what are you talking about? I don't understand this. Because when I'm not on my Adderall, my brain, it like literally like misfires. It's like everything, like I take it in, and then like 20 minutes later, it's like, oh, that's what that meant. You know what I mean?
And there's so much stigma about it. And so I have a lot of parents that have trouble, like, their children need it. And I understand that it is used a lot. And sometimes kids don't need it. They need to go outside and run and whatever. But there are kids that do need it. And there are people and adults that do need it that haven't been diagnosed until they're adults. And I have people all the time say, I'm 30, I just got diagnosed. It's been a life changer for me. Why wasn't I diagnosed back then? And it's because their parents didn't want to put them on meds, you know. But
I was diagnosed.
We would hesitate to give our kids an antibiotic if they needed it.
Exactly. I was diagnosed 5 years ago with ADHD. I seriously, I like sit there. I'm like, if I would have been diagnosed when I was a kid, like I probably would have been
the trajectory of your life. You know,
I could be a millionaire right now.
There you go.
So I blame my mother. Susan has a question. She says, "Do any of these doctors who are killing our kids get mad at you guys for caring?" Killing our kids.
Do any of the doctors are killing our kids?
All three of us are like, Could
you elaborate on that?
I feel like there's more meaning there that we don't know.
We love you. please elaborate on this because we're not sure exactly what you mean by this, love. Bree says she loves her pharmacist. She says it truly is. I'm assuming getting on Adderall, boom. Michelle says, I recently went to the APRN. She upped my dosage of Adderall. The pharmacist and I spoke about it to let her know that it only works half the day for me because she was on a smaller dose just in the morning. Pharmacist completely understood, and I was just diagnosed at 39. I'm going to speak on a personal because I know Michelle Bonewoods personally. Like, we talk almost every day, and I wasn't going to spread her business, but I'd be like, oh yeah, she just got diagnosed, but since she said it, I can.
But now you are.
Now I am. Now I am. But when Michelle and I talked on the phone before, our conversations went so many different places, and I was sitting here going, bitch, keep on track. Girl, come back here. I need you to come back over here. And she'd be like, oh yeah, this. And she would get frustrated, like, just with everything. And then ever since she's been diagnosed, like, I talk to her and I'm like, are you there? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, hey, girl. And she's like, hey. You know, like, it's like, like, it's literally like our conversations have a beginning, a middle, and an end now. And she's so relaxed, which you think with Adderall, like, you're going to be up. But that's because, and correct me if I'm wrong, the ones that have that speed driven are the ones that don't need it. Right.
Yeah, that's what we typically find. The people that need it the most, it, you know, brings some focus and calm to them. And the people that don't typically need it get speeded up a bit by it. So, I mean, not 100% rule, but that's just a general.
Right.
But, you know, Bree and Michelle bring up a really good point of getting to know your pharmacist is huge, especially when you're filling controlled substances. Like, we want to know you. We want to help you. We want to, like, be partners in your healthcare with you. So introduce yourself, you know. Make yourself
so I will
known.
tell you that I definitely do, right? Whenever I'm working at a new clinic or facility or organization, I want to know, like, okay, where do the patients most likely go to? And then I'll usually call up that pharmacist directly, like, hi, and introduce myself as a healthcare provider.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Because that way they can feel the comfort, like, oh, I know that guy. I did speak to him. I know who he is and where he works. And like, for me, it really, don't get me wrong, it's annoying. Even my own computer system nags at me. So if I were to order something, like in the past, when I used to do trans care, now I do mostly women's health, but in family practice. But in the past, when I did trans care, you know, a prescription for a trans female may be 200% the regular limit of estrogen. Right. All computer systems will prompt a big red screen, and I'm sure you get it too.
Oh yeah.
And then that means for me, I get thousands of phone calls. Right. I get thousands, and then. But now here's the thing: had I preemptively made that phone call, you were like, you know, Dr. Emily would be like, "Oh no, I know him. I know he did trans care. This is where he's working at. This is normal for this population."
Yeah. And for any prescribers that are listening, if you put that little note on there too, like, I know this is above the door, or for like an indication, then we'll know exactly what's being treated. So we don't even have to make that call. It's like, oh, obviously they're transitioning. So that makes sense now.
So Susan says, shut up, Anthony. I know what you're thinking, because we all know that Susan needs to be on Adderall. But Bree says she was diagnosed at 30. Michelle says, my whole life I was wondering what's wrong with me, but now I am calm and able to communicate properly and focus. 100%. So back to what Susan was saying, asking about the killing our kids. With prescriptions, so this is just an example of Adderall, because there's about 5 different answers here. Hold on. With prescriptions, they don't need opioids, pain clinics, moneymaker only. Yeah. Okay. So going back to her question, do doctors get mad at you for caring about the patients that are giving?
Okay. So when I call on a prescription that I think is unnecessary or an over prescribed, I do get some, you know, we have pill mills. We have doctors that you just pay $100 and you get a prescription for OxyContin. Like, that exists. So when I do call on them, sometimes I do get annoyed. Like, I've had people say, I'm the doctor, don't you question me. But I say, I have a joint liability. Like, if I dispense something that I think is not good and it's found to not be good, I go to jail too. So we share this responsibility with these patients. So yeah, I have had some doctors get a little, I'm the doctor, how dare you question me? But most of the legitimate people, it's really working together and collaborating and trying to do the best thing for our patients, for joint patients.
The interesting part, and I think Dr. Emily will agree, is that working in this field, we know who those prescribers are and where they're working.
Gotcha. So Bree says Provigil is used for ADHD and narcolepsy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So what, what, that's a perfect example. This one medication can be used for two things. What if somebody, so it's a kind of like, okay, so narcolepsy is where you just all of a sudden fall asleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could that be caused from ADHD? Because you're so exhausted that all of a sudden your brain just goes shut down, reset?
No. I think we're talking about two different systems altogether in the brain.
Okay, I told you she's pretty not smart right here.
Yeah. However, the pharmacological concept to keep someone awake and steady and focused is the same.
Gotcha. Michelle says, a friend of mine is a pharmacist and has said that it's never blood pressure meds that accidentally fall in the toilet. So I can understand the major concerns of pharmacists and PCP in regards to patients mismanaging medication. Well, I was freaking out.
I'm going to call that BS right now. So my primary medication, my personal primary medication treatment actually happens to be a blood pressure medication. That is my long-term medication. And whenever I'm about to run out and I haven't made it to my own primary care, I will accidentally have lost them or dropped them or whatever and call up my pharmacy friends. You're like, whoopsie.
That is so funny.
She was definitely a mom that would not put my youngest on drugs at all, and it wasn't a smart move. You know, I think that we're finding that, you know, in today's world, that medication is there for a reason, you know. And I do, like, me personally, from a non-medical world at all, I'm a hairdresser, but I hear parents all day talking about their wild child that can't concentrate in school, that can't do this, that can't do that, can't do this, and I'm like, well, have you ever tried putting them on Adderall? I would never. But why? And then I tell them my story, and they're like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, all my life, I just sat there being like, why can't I read a book? Like, I mean, I can read, but why couldn't I read a book? Like, I was literally.
Can you really?
I can read too, honey. Don't get me started with those bags underneath your eyes. Okay. But it was, for me, it was always flip the page, and I had no clue what was on that page before.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, since we're at the halfway mark, I would like to flip the page and maybe shift to another drug called vaccine.
Ooh.
Let's go. Yeah, because we are at the halfway mark. I was just, Eric, you read my mind, sis. Come on, girl.
Can I give one final thought on the drug side?
Yeah, sure.
Dude, like, reach out to your pharmacist, become friends with your pharmacist. If you do use, I know we talked about prescription drugs, but if you are using prescription drugs or non-prescription drugs, let your pharmacist know. Like, we want to know, we want to help you. Those drugs do interact. CBD interacts with stuff. We have, you know, they fight for the same liver. The liver metabolizes CBD and also prescription drugs. So if you're taking CBD and a prescription drug, they might conflict. So let us know. Let us help you. So talk to your pharmacist. I don't know. That's just my soapbox. Like, we want to know you. We want to help you. Please let us be partners in healthcare with you.
And this is one reason why I was like so excited that you said that you would come on, because I remember the conversation that you and I had, and you're like, I feel so much like care for trans patients, because so many trans patients don't understand. Get to know your pharmacist, because your pharmacist is going to get that drug filled for you. You know, that hormone. They're going to get you on that track. They're going to go that extra step, you know. So when you said to me, I was like, oh my God, I love you.
I'm extremely passionate about people that, you know, sometimes our trans patients slip through the cracks. They're overlooked. They're not, you know, cared for in the way that they should be cared for, that everyone should be cared for. And I'm really passionate about, you know, helping people and just making sure that people get the care that they deserve.
Right, exactly. So Yvonne Carter.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail that. Vaccine.
No, totally fine. No, I love that you said that. So this is my best friend's mom. She says, if your child has a broken arm, you put a cast on it. If your child has a brain break, you have to help with medicine. Bravo. Yes, you are 100% correct, honey. Now, we are going to go on to vaccines. Brie also says, name a vaccine. She's probably had most of them. So, I had my second shot of Pfizer today.
Ooh.
And I'm doing well. I had it at 11:15, so we're going on 9 hours.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm not tired. I've been hydrating all day. I've been active all day. Except for 20 minutes one day. I'd be on a call and I was like, well, I'm just going to go lay down because I can't do anything in my house anyways. But like I've been cleaning, grocery shopping and stuff like that. Is that smart that when you're getting a vaccine to be active? Or is it better to go home and go to sleep?
I mean, I think it all depends on the person. I would encourage people to be active. And my train of thought with being active is the same train of thought that comes from people post-surgery. We've discovered over time that when someone finishes surgery, right, we want them to basically, people get shocked nowadays. Like you go home the same day, right? You're walking within 2 hours. There's so many benefits in keeping that mobility, whether it's preventing blood clots, whether it's, just circulation and distraction. It's just a myriad of benefits. Versus in the past, and that's from a previous, when people would come out of surgery, they would stay in their beds. They would stay in the hospital for 2 nights. You don't see that anymore, and that's for good reason.
Now, as part of, my brain went, okay, I'm getting a medicine injection to my body, and even when I take my vitamins and stuff like that, I want to be active because my lymphatic system is going to go ahead and move it through my body and make it move, and it's going to do what it's got to do. So even when I've gotten a cold, I've always been like, I'm not going to be that bitch that sits down. It's like, oh my God. I mean, I want to be dramatic, but I don't. And that's my thought.
Starva fever. There's something else.
Starva fever, feet of cold. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I wonder if there's something similar to that with the mobility or motion.
Yeah.
That's fine. So on your guys' side, I'm going to let you guys speak about the 3 different vaccines out there, and on your medical side of give us some correct information, because that there's information all over the world right now. People saying yes, some people saying no, some people saying there's not enough studies, some people saying it's toxic, some people saying it's not. Just give us some info. Just give us some info. All right, so I'm going to pull myself out so that the focus is just on you two, and I will be back in just a couple, but I'm going to be sitting here listening. If everybody could go over and do a bunch of hearts, share this, because this is important. This is important for us all to get back to the world now. All right, everybody, we have Eric and Dr. Emily to be talking about vaccines.
Hey, so vaccines. I think the first thing is that I think we should definitely talk about that maybe the general populace doesn't know about is how these vaccines came to market and why they came, or how it was possible that they came to market so fast. So my understanding is, and this is my understanding as on the healthcare provider side, is that basically researchers got together and instead of working on a vaccine from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we divvied it up. We divvied up our homework assignments, basically. So I did assignment 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2.5, and you did assignment 5, 4, and 3.5, or whatever. And then we met in the middle, and we put our information together, and that's how it was double, triple as fast. We were able to expedite.
Also, we've been working on mRNA technology for years. So this is not as new as people think it is. I know a lot of people are really scared. We came out with it so quickly. How could it be safe? But we've been working on mRNA technology for decades almost. We worked on it with HIV. We worked on it with the SARS, the MERS, all that. So we had the technology. We basically just had to insert that genome. So the technology has been there and we've been refining it over decades. So like you said, we split up the work. It's amazing what we can do when the whole world gets together and, does something. But yeah, I've heard a lot of vaccine hesitancy around, gosh, we just don't, how did we get it so fast? Which makes sense to me. If I don't know anything about it, I'm like, wait a minute, how do we get that so fast? It takes years to develop a drug, but we have been working on it for years.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point is that not only do we divvy up the work and we put it back together again, but you're right, that technology existed before. It's like if we had to build a car today, we're not learning to build an engine from scratch. We have engines everywhere, all sorts of kinds. We would essentially just have to pick one and pick the color, and that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's huge. And then with the emergency use authorization, I know as a vaccinator, whenever I do MaxVac clinics, we always have to talk about emergency use. What does that mean? It's not FDA approved. I don't know if I want to get something that's not FDA approved. Well, basically, we just cut the red tape. We didn't take any shortcuts on safety or knowing if it's effective. We know that it's safe enough. We know that it's effective enough. It has been tested in tens of thousands of people. We just didn't have to go through the full regulatory process that a drug typically has to go through because we're in the middle of a pandemic and we need it quickly. Is it safe enough? Yes. Is it effective enough? Yes. Let's get it in arms. And now millions of people have been vaccinated. So we have the data from millions of people now.
The other thing I think that we should probably mention is percentages, because a lot of people would get confused, like, oh, which one's better? Which one? This one has 90. What is it? 95. This one's 92. The other one has weird, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I want to drop the number and a number across the board for all of them, right? And that number is 100. All of these vaccines, 100% will prevent hospitalization and death from COVID-19 across the board, 100%, right?
Yeah.
They will prevent these like severe catastrophic things. Now, the means and the way that they do it and their effectiveness and how they do it in different percentages, that is a whole other category.
Sure. And that's what we're trying to prevent is death, right? So that's a great number. And so people ask me, which vaccine should I get? Am I team Moderna? Am I team Pfizer? What about the Johnson & Johnson? I always advise people to get the vaccine that you're offered, get the first vaccine you can, because we're trying to prevent people from dying. And that's what all of these vaccines do. They were tested at different times on different populations with different variants. So it's really apples and oranges on some of the studies as far as the percentages. You know, I don't want to get Johnson & Johnson. It was only in the 60s or 70s. I want to wait for Moderna. But that was tested during a different time period. We really can't compare those two. And if they both prevent death, like, let's just do it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the people may have losing like sight of what we're trying to prevent, and that is death, right? And we're trying to prevent hospitalization and death. The other thing is like different populations. So this is a bane of my existence in a variety of ways. So my sister is breastfeeding, right? And she had my niece during COVID.
I had a baby during COVID.
Yeah. So one of the things is that she was concerned about, like, oh, can I get it while I'm breastfeeding? And the interesting thing is that, you know, she forces me to like reevaluate things and kind of go back. I want to say yes right away, and like, because of course I love my sister and I want to protect her as much as possible, and keep my family growing and happy and healthy. But I went back and I actually found out that the Pfizer study originally actually did have female doctor pregnant participants that were part of it.
Isn't that great?
They received their vaccine while pregnant. No damage or harm came to the fetuses that were born as part of the study. No harm or damage came. They did find antibodies, of course, in the fetuses when they were born, or the children.
Isn't that amazing? That's awesome. Babies born with antibodies to COVID. Like, I know I'm breastfeeding myself, so I was looking at the same stuff. Is this safe while I'm breastfeeding? And now we've done studies and people have given breast milk samples and we pass it through our breast milk. So my baby's probably the safest one of all my children. So yeah, a great news. I think it's great. I think everybody that can should. I don't know if you have any myths or, things that, if anyone listening has things that they'd like to ask about, like things they've heard or, hesitancies or whatever, happy to discuss all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be curious to see if anyone that's in the chat right now actually had any questions about the vaccines in general and their benefits or their risks. Talking about risk while we're waiting for people to come on, like writing questions, is one of the things that came on with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Honestly, the whole blood clot situation, I'm going to be honest, as a healthcare provider, when I read and saw that, the first thing I did was roll my eyes. The second thing I did is I went to go look at the numbers and go evaluate the actual numbers. And I ended up discovering that oral contraception, hormonal oral contraception, has actually a higher degree of blood clots than
Much higher degree. Yeah.
much higher, much higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of shocked that the FDA would even put a stop to it in any way. It was temporary. Obviously, we're back to using it again.
Yeah. Same thing. That's what when I saw it, I said, "Oh my goodness, if they think that 1 in or 6 in a million is bad, wait till they hear what oral contraceptives do."
I know.
So
but it's best to be safe. Like, I think that the more people will trust. So.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And Bree was popping out a couple of things here. She said, only shot you shouldn't be active after an allergy. Only shot you shouldn't be active after our allergy shot. Follow your doctor's directions. Oh, I guess we're talking about being active afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Doing activity after. Yeah.
She says, Team Pfizer. Adrian Coates says, Pfizer gang representing.
All right, so I got Moderna. I'm Team Moderna. Anybody else?
Okay, so Dr. Emily is the only Moderna girl in here. I am Team Pfizer as well.
Are you? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm representing Team Moderna right now.
So I always say I'm Team Beyonce because there's a meme going around. It's Beyonce is Pfizer, Kelly Rowland is Moderna, and Michelle is Johnson & Johnson. So it's like
hey, did you guys hear that Pfizer just did their emergency use authorization for down to 12 years old today? So that's exciting news. Just today, they approved 12 through 15-year-olds. So we're getting ready at Mass Vax to take it down to those 12-year-olds. So we're excited about that.
Very nice. Brie also says retroviral vaccines from past viruses. She says even the Ebola outbreak, retroviral drugs from the outbreak has been in trials and researched.
Yeah, Brie, you're right. People think it's a really new technology because it came out so fast, but this is something that we've been researching for decades.
She said, what about people saying that vaccines cause autism? I have a ASD and I got stronger. And I just got stronger.
So I'm not sure about the second part of that, but I will tell you definitely about the first part. So there was a big myth that was definitely like widespread, an anti-vaxxer movement. They were talking about the MMR and how it may have caused autism and whatnot. The sad part is that there was one myth, one movement. Lots of people missed their MMRs or their vaccines in general out of fear, right? But there have been thousands of studies, which means millions, if not billions of dollars in research that have actually proved that they're not associated in any way.
Yeah. There was one study that Dr. Andrew Wakefield did that people really latched onto for.
It was retracted, by the way.
It has been retracted.
Yeah.
It's found that was false research, but for some reason that's really just stuck with people. But yeah, I just want to echo what Eric said, that they do not cause autism.
And Adrian says, I am worried about my kid going back to school when she's too young to get the vaccine. So many people are choosing not to get vaccinated. I'm in Florida because I'm in Florida, Eric's in Florida. Emily's in Virginia. She's lucky. So people here in Florida, we're just a hot fucking train wreck. Let's just, I mean, we couldn't even get the election right. So let's just talk about that. So many people are choosing not to get vaccinated. I'm in Florida, and they will not require masks this fall. That,
oh my gosh.
I will tell you right now. Yeah, so our lovely governor just signed a thing saying, starting July 1st, all mandates lifted.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll tell you personally, my family is actually continuing education at home.
Oh, Adrian, what the heck?
Yeah, Florida, our governor here is like, nope, July 1st.
Are we team remove Ron, or is that like something we can't talk about on here?
We could totally talk about that here.
Remove Ron.
Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here.
Adrian, I don't even know what to tell you about that. That really sucks. And I mean, if homeschool is not an option for you, that's just, I mean, you tell that baby to wear her mask.
Like, I'm lucky that my sister's at home, right? So that could happen.
So Bree just nailed it right on the head. That is DeSantis. He wants to make up for all the lost revenue. 100% correct.
And Adrian, I will say, they just approved that emergency use authorization down to 12 years old in Pfizer, and we're looking at doing 2 through 12 in September-ish. Like that's the timeline I've heard from some of the people I know that are in.
Wow. Kids will be already in school before the essentially middle of August.
Yeah, so they'll already be in school, but like there's a light at the end of the tunnel for those younger kids. My kids have been asking about it too. My kids don't currently go to school, but they want to play maskless in their friends' houses. I'm like, just hold on until September, babies. Like it's coming. So, I mean, if that gives you any hope at all.
Thomas asks, J&J is being offered to me through an employer. After the last show, I opened up to others. The last show that we were talking about, we kind of already discussed, like in our first episode, we talked about like just vaccines, and we talked about a bunch of stuff, Emily, if you weren't able to watch it. But he said after the last show, he opened up to others. Okay. Should I take it if given, or wait until I get another option?
I think Dr. Emily has kind of said this before. Whatever option you have, take it. Remember what I said earlier, is that all three of them are going to give you 100% protection when it comes to hospitalization and impending death from COVID. So let's prevent death and let's prevent hospitalization.
Yeah, and Johnson has a lot of advantages too in being the one shot. You know, I'm seeing a lot now of people missing their second vaccine for the Moderna and the Pfizer, and that's probably a whole nother topic for another show of how immunity becomes immunity and why that second dose is so very important to the long-term immunity. Johnson is one, so you don't have to worry about missing that second one, and that's easy for people to schedule and, you know, take the one day off work or whatever. So I would advise to get what's offered to you. So if that's it, it's a great vaccine.
Adrian says she's 11, hoping they'll drop the age soon. # remove Ron. Matt says remove Ron. Bree says remove Ron. We're all kind of like remove him, you know. But unfortunately, we are in a red state, so.
Hey, excuse me, sir. I would like to believe that we are purple. Look at the look I'm getting.
I work in one of the reddest counties in this state.
I live in a red county in a blue state. I hear you.
Listen, I love every single one of my clients, but a majority of my clients are red. And you know what? We respect each other. We really do. But this is what I'll also say. A lot of my clients, like, that are red, they've gotten their vaccine. Because they're like, you know, it's medicine. They're not like, oh, I'm not going to get it. They're just like, this is medicine. This is something that I can go and I can see my grandkids. I can see my children. I don't have to worry about, you know, a lot of them are teachers. That's fine. Sorry, I had to interrupt Dan really quick. Going to school, because I do some teachers, going to school and, you know, getting it from the kids that are there. Or I also a lot of nurses that are working in hospitals, so they're not having to worry about that. And even though they're on the red side, I find that the county that I live in, Lake County, is predominantly red because of financial, because it's very like old school money here. Like Lake County, a lot of people don't know this about Lake County. It's one of the richest counties in Florida, even though it's in the middle of nowhere and it's in the boondocks and it's country. But we are actually one of the #1 building counties, like in Florida as well, because we have so much land and so much ability to build businesses. All the highways are coming here. So that's why a lot of my clients are on the red side. And we've had that discussion because of
I think it's bullshit. They need to stop complaining. Hide your money in the Caymans like everyone else. Get over it.
But, yeah.
I don't know. I wish this wasn't a red state blue or a red blue issue. It's like public health, you know, like we're all in this together. We're all humans. Like just do it. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, black, white, brown. Like who cares? Like this is public health. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Just get the vaccine. Just do it. Do it for yourself. Do it for your immunocompromised neighbor.
Do it for me because I want to go on a cruise.
I want to go on a cruise, right?
We want to travel.
Well, you know, one thing that I'm going to say is, even though I'm now fully vaccinated, well, technically I'm not fully vaccinated for another 2 weeks, for it to be fully in full. But I'm going to continue like wearing a mask at my salon because I have actually found that even if COVID were to disappear tomorrow, I would continue to wear a mask with my clients, not because of like cooties or anything, but because for 20 years, I've brewed so much hair that when they do my autopsy, I'm going to have like the multicolor fur coat inside of my lungs. I have smelt so many chemicals and stuff like that I think I'm just going to continue wearing it because I've noticed that actually my allergies have gotten better since I've been wearing my mask. You know?
Yeah, I have enjoyed being cold free. You know, we haven't had a cold. I mean, knock on something, but I mean,
flu season was almost nothing this year, which was nice.
I didn't dispense a single Tamiflu this whole year.
Oh my God, I didn't prescribe a single one either.
Well, so I've had this discussion with some of my clients, and they're like, "Well, that's because everything's diagnosed as COVID now. There is no more." And I'm like,
"Oh."
But my teachers are like, well, "I haven't gotten sick." Like they're like, "I've been wearing this mask and I haven't gotten sick." You know, so it's Florida is a interesting state. Let's say that. So, but we are coming to the end. So if anybody has any questions or comments or anything, go ahead and type them right now because we are coming to the end of Sass and Science, Drugs and Drugs. And so let's get any questions that are out here for myself, Eric, or Emily, which it'll probably be more towards those two because I'll just give you a sarcastic answer. So
still fun to hear.
Right?
It's still fun. It's still super fun. But yeah, like Emily, I would like to thank you so much for coming on here because like when I was talking to you when you guys were here on vacation and we were still socially distanced, we were outside and like I loved it. Like Eric, you would have been like, yes, Miss Emily, yes. Like she was like, if you come over and you are not fully vaccinated, if you walk inside this rental house, you must wear a mask even to go to the bathroom. And I was fully respectful of it. I was like, okay. It's like this, yeah, I agree. You know, what if I'm in your bathroom taking a piss and all of a sudden I cough and then your child goes in there and touches what I, coughed on and they get sick or whatever, So, we all sat around this big, huge table and it was like the couples were together and then we were just talking to each other. But when I was talking to you about it and you were like, so it shows so much interest, I was just like, you are definitely have to come on here to talk about vaccines and just drugs in general because I just absolutely love all the information that you brought to us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been super fun. I've loved it. I'm just passionate about helping people and drugs. I mean, this is like my topic. So thank you for having me.
This is your topic.
Right?
We should get you and Marin on here together to talk about health, mental health, and medication.
I love it. I do. Yeah, I would love to talk mental health, prescription medications and how to choose the best ones, which ones work for what. Like, yeah, man, that's like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bree says,
drugs are fun.
Drugs are fun.
So I'm going to go ahead and put you into the green room. If you want to hang out, all you can. When we close out, we can all chit chat. If not, if you go, I totally understand. You've got 5 kids.
5 babies, yep. One of them's turning 3 tomorrow.
Oh, Piper's turning 3 tomorrow?
Piper's turning 3 tomorrow, and then Reed turns 1 the next day. Their birthdays are like back to back. I'm apparently fertile once a year.
Babe, we got to really happy birthdays tomorrow. Well, I'm going to put you back in the green room.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me on, and thanks for all the questions and the good discussion. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Isn't she just wonderful?
Absolutely. I know wealth of knowledge too. I love.
Like so much. Like that's one reason why I love Dan's family is because they're all so knowledgeable and they're all beautiful people. Like you should see his brother. I have such this biggest crush on his brother. It's not even funny.
No.
I'm sure he's watching, so he probably knows now. But like he but I'm also like, hey Jeffrey, how are you doing? Hi, but no, like they're all just such great people with so much knowledge. They're just so loving and accepting of everybody. So
then what happened to Dan?
He's just a jaded, bitter bitch.
And that's the one you picked.
That's the one I picked. Because I love him, because he gives me a challenge.
Oh.
It's really because he's the bull and I'm the ram, so we just lock horns amongst locking other things. Sis. Yeah.
Oh God. Sword fight topics for another day.
Exactly. So Well, thank you, Eric. I love you as always. And I will be talking to you in just a minute. So everybody out there, thank you so much for those of you that joined this episode of Sass and Science with myself, Sass BEARONCE Bear, and
myself, Eric, nurse practitioner, the science.
And join us on the 24th, which is 2 weeks from today. We are going to be talking about weight loss and weight gain.
Ooh.
So, all right, everybody, be safe, be well, wash your hands, continue to wear your mask even if your governor tells you not to. Get your vaccine. Let's get back to normal because, listen, one, I'm sick and tired of wearing a mask or a shield when I have to perform. I'm over it. But also, I just want to see everybody's beautiful smiles, and hopefully they got their dental work during all of this taken care of, and they brushed their teeth. So, all right, everybody, talk to you later. Bye.
Mwah.